Hello friends, Zachary Stockill here from retroactivejealousy.com, and in today's video I'm going to recommend 5 books which I believe every retroactive jealousy sufferer should read. Please note that I'm basing these selections not only based on my own personal experience of overcoming retroactive jealousy, but over 7 years of coaching individuals and receiving feedback from retroactive jealousy sufferers, both in my online course as well as people who read my guidebook, Overcoming Retroactive Jealousy. People write to me and they tell me books that they find helpful, so I'm basing these selections on a number of their suggestions as well. Before I get started, I'll just mention that you can find links to all of these books in the description below. The first book I'll recommend is what some people refer to as the OCD Bible. It's called Brain Lock by Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz, and I think this book will be particularly valuable if you are prone or have been prone in the past to any kind of obsessive thinking, if you're truly dealing with obsessive compulsive thinking around your partner's past, if you have any history of OCD, either personally or even in your family, and if you are interested in looking at OCD from a scientific standpoint and using very practical tools to kind of deal with it and cope with it and learn coping strategies to deal with unwanted thoughts, I think Brain Lock is probably the best book on the market in terms of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And though it doesn't acknowledge or deal with retroactive jealousy specifically, I think in particular if you have the values question sorted. In other words, you're not really struggling with the values of your partner's past. You're not thinking that there might be an incompatibility there in terms of your values. If it's simply you just can't stop thinking about your partner's past, you really want to find an escape route from the obsessive thinking, I think Brain Lock is a great place to start. The second book I'll recommend is particularly for people who are dealing or have dealt with any kind of depression and or anxiety. The book is called Feeling Good by Dr. David Burns. Feeling Good is, along with Brain Lock, another book that has been out for some time and is still very popular. You can find hundreds and hundreds of 5-star reviews on Amazon. It's a very well-regarded book. And this book goes into changing the way you feel. It's particularly aimed at people suffering from depression. And even if you're not struggling with clinical depression, anything related to just feeling low a lot of the time, perhaps dealing with a lack of self-esteem, if you find it difficult to kind of snap yourself out of these dark moods, perhaps as a result of retroactive jealousy, I think you'll find Feeling Good to be a very good read. But I include this suggestion along with the caveat that this book, as well as my work, as I make explicit in my website and in my guidebook and in my online course, this is not a remedy for suicidal depression. So if you're dealing with any kind of suicidal ideation or you're having any thoughts of suicide, anything along those lines, please, please, please get yourself to a mental health professional as soon as possible. The third book I'll recommend is actually, it's the third and the fourth book technically. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. So I believe that some kind of basic mindfulness/meditation practice is absolutely essential for anyone who struggles with retroactive jealousy. This is a point I make both in my own guidebook as well as my online course repeatedly. There's a whole section, actually there's multiple sections in my online course, Get Over Your Partner's Past Fast, dealing specifically with meditation and mindfulness practices. But if you're brand new to this world, if you've never dealt with any kind of meditation or you've don't have any exposure to what some people call Eastern spiritual traditions such as Buddhism, Hinduism, I think the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle is a very good introduction to meditation, mindfulness practices, etc. It's a very Westerner-friendly introduction to these practices. He's a good writer. And again, this is a book that's sold a bajillion copies, and there's a good reason for it, because I do think it is one of the best introductions, particularly for Westerners, to basic, cultivating presence, mindfulness practices. However, if you already have somewhat of a background in meditation, mindfulness, that kind of thing, then the book that I would recommend dealing with similar topics, similar themes, is a book by Alan Watts. It's called The Wisdom of Insecurity. And it is, I believe, one of the best books on presence, mindfulness, gaining a greater perspective on our place in the cosmos and our tiny little ego and all of our little problems. I think there's a case to be made that Alan Watts is one of the greatest public speakers of all time, really. If you search Alan Watts on YouTube, you can find hours of just incredible, incredible stuff. He was a really remarkable speaker, and he was an equally talented writer. I think The Wisdom of Insecurity is a great read for any retroactive jealousy sufferer. I read it back when I was struggling with retroactive jealousy, and it helped me a great deal. The fourth, or if you're really keeping score, I guess the fifth book I'll recommend is not dealing with meditation, it's not dealing with obsessive thinking, it's not dealing with depression, it's not dealing with any of the symptoms we might associate with retroactive jealousy. But I think it's an essential read just about for anyone in a long-term relationship. The book is called Mating in Captivity by Esther Perel. Esther Perel is a longtime couples counselor, therapist, great author, really good writer. And this book is based on decades of working in couples counseling. And the book really gets into how to keep the fire alive, how to keep passion alive in a long-term relationship, how to perhaps revitalize your long-term relationship. It deals with a lot of ideas and concepts that I think will be very helpful and relevant to anyone suffering from retroactive jealousy. I probably don't have to tell you that retroactive jealousy does an enormous amount of damage to long-term relationships. And I believe this book is a great step you can take. Reading this book is a great step you can take toward repairing some of the damage that retroactive jealousy is likely causing your relationship. The final book I'll recommend is a completely self-serving, completely biased recommendation, so just I'll warn you up front. But I do believe that my guidebook, Overcoming Retroactive Jealousy, remains the best book on the market about retroactive jealousy. And again, I'm the author, I'm completely biased. But if you go on Amazon, for example, you can find hundreds of reviews from all over the world. It's been selling very well since 2013. Many thousands of people have found it very helpful. So I would be remiss if I didn't also include on this list my own book, my first book, Overcoming Retroactive Jealousy, A Guide to Getting Over Your Partner's Past and Finding Peace. And as a special bonus recommendation, I guess last year I published kind of a complement, I suppose, to Overcoming Retroactive Jealousy. The book I published last year is called the Overcoming Jealousy Workbook, and it's a week-by-week, step-by-step plan, basically, for anyone dealing with any kind of jealousy, whether it's retroactive jealousy or it's more contemporary-based jealousy. It's a series of exercises, writing exercises, journaling exercises, writing prompts to get you thinking about your jealousy in a different way, to help delve deeper into your own psyche, into your own psychology, into your past, into your childhood. Frankly, I'm very proud of it, and many people have found it very helpful. So in addition to Overcoming Retroactive Jealousy, I do think you'll find my workbook, the Overcoming Jealousy Workbook, very helpful. Thank you very much for watching this today. Hope you benefited from this. If you did benefit from this video, please be sure to click the like button below. Also be sure you subscribe to my channel, and happy reading.